Hey folks, Kevin here. Here's a follow-up video about the OpenAI functions. So a lot of folks are using Python here to do some very interesting things with functions. They are taking a bunch of like API calls and passing them in. You can see here we have get, post, put, deletes, and basically they're passing these in as JSON objects to OpenAI so that the language model can intelligently call these functions. And so that's very cool. A lot of these libraries, a lot of these functions, a lot of these tutorials are done in Python, and so I wanted to share a TypeScript, JavaScript way of handling these functions. The other thing that these don't do, at least the couple that I've seen, is they don't incorporate external data into the function calling. So for example, if you make an API call, it's assuming that OpenAI is able to provide you with all the parameters they have to pass into the function. And so that's not always the case. And so I built basically a way to in JavaScript pass in the parameters to the function, external parameters, and I'm going to show that kind of how that goes. If I can get everything set here. All right, so I'm going to start by a very, very basic kind of concept or use case, business case that we want to do here, which is basically a bot that is taking in Venmo and name information, email from a user and storing that in a database. And so that's the basic use case, and this is what's happening. So this is a very quick demo of how this works. So this user is saying, hello, my Venmo account is at John Smith, and my name is John Smith. And so that's pretty basic. Now there's two functions. There's handle reimbursement and update lead email and name. And so those two functions are passed into OpenAI. Now that's cool, but what if we have in the database already the ID of this person? And so the idea here is OpenAI doesn't really need to know the ID, but we do need to have a way for that to be passed into the functions when OpenAI decides to call them. And so I have this kind of a little bit complex, but gets the job done method, which basically finds external arguments based on the name of the function, which I'm going to show you in a second. And then it'll basically put those external arguments into the function call and call them along with the arguments that are passed in with OpenAI. Now, this is complex code. I'm going to upload this into the repo so that folks can see it and kind of see how it works, play around with it. But basic idea is this. Let's see, where is it? Okay, here it is. So I set these arguments and I set the name of the function and the external and the argument to be passed in, right? So in this case, there's an array. These two, actually both these functions need that lead ID, right? And so they're going to be passed in when either of those are called. So basically it's a way for you to pass in external data, other data to the calls that OpenAI doesn't need to have. So OpenAI is going to say, okay, this guy is John Smith, here's his Venmo handle, and it's going to be able to handle all that and deal with all that. But then we want to, when we write it to the database, we need the ID of that person. So that's the basic idea here. Again, in TypeScript and JavaScript as opposed to Python, and also passing in external arguments to your functions as they're being called. Okay, so I ran this and let's see what happened. So the user here, we'll start at the top here. So it said my Venmo account is at John Smith and my name is John Smith. So OpenAI said, okay, well, now I have this function that I can call set user info, and it set the last name, first name to John, last name to Smith, and you'll see here it didn't update the email because it doesn't have it. So it can intelligently call these functions based on the information you give it. And so the email wasn't required. If they have the info on the first and last name, then add it, but you don't need email. So that's pretty cool. All right, so then it iteratively passed this back into OpenAI, okay? And then it said, okay, you know what? There's a Venmo account here, and I have a function that says set payment account type and identifier. And so basically what happened after that, it passed in the Venmo account identifier at John Smith and it updated it. And so all this information was passed back to OpenAI, and then it triggered a response here to the user. I've updated the information in the database, and then is there anything else I can help you with? This is maybe something you don't update info in the database. That's just because that's the message that I passed back. And so, you can pass back any information that you want. Or qualifier that you want to give to the AI model. Or maybe you want to pass back the actual message bypassing the AI model. I like to kind of sum things up using the AI. I like to use the language model as much as I can to provide context for the user. I find that it feels more conversational in that way. But here's an example of basically calling functions iteratively to do tasks. This was just one message from the user and it did all this stuff. And so pretty powerful stuff. A very cool example here in TypeScript and JavaScript. Thanks for watching.